Hello, Rune Weavers. This is Birch the Runeweaver, and I want to wish everyone a very happy Sigerblot, or as I would call it, Ostarablot. This is the day of the first full moon after the spring equinox. And this particular moon holds a very special meaning to me because it was on the first full moon after the spring equinox 3 years ago when I consider myself to have completed my initiation as a Volva in the Germanic heathen tradition and was honored by my pagan group that I belonged to at the time, my grove. And so I have something rather special for you because I'm actually multitasking right now. I am working on a new hobby horse. This will be Ingrid, the horse of spring, a guardian of my new home. Her head is the brown of the spring earth. Those of you in a northern climate, you know why brown is the color of the spring earth. It's not for fluffy, happy soil reasons. It's for the mud that squelches to your ankle. And this is going to be her body. I'm going to be crafting some runes into it for her. Um, and when all is said and done, she will have a body of a stick painted and carved in with runes from the park across the street from me, a place that has, in the course of less than a year, come to have extremely great spiritual significance to me. Um, so, when I was on a walk this spring, I was looking out for a good stick that I could use for Ingrid's body, and I came across that one. It's been charging on my porch for the last month, getting lots of that strong, burgeoning solar energy as the solar year begins to wax towards the summer solstice in June. And so I have a story for you that I'm going to tell while I work on Ingrid's head in front of you. And I know sewing and weaving, we often think of them as two very different things, but on a spiritual level, it's actually very close because you have that which was, everything that you've sewn up to the present moment. You have, of course, the sacred, that which is, the moment that the needle goes through and is pulled straight. And you have that which what will be, the unfinished part of Ingrid's head. And in that sense, of course, sewing and weaving really are just two different methods of the same way of linking your spirit to the fates, the Norns, or, call them what you will, the three sisters. But it is all there. Now, the story I'm going to tell you all today is a version of the story of how Frey met Gerd. It is not the version that you're going to see in Snorri, which I used when I was doing my video on the goddesses and the Jotun the and all that. It is a different story that is not one I've seen written down anywhere else, but it's one that I swear I've heard told to me in a dream while I was meditating at on this issue of what is spring and why is the story in Snorri so horrible. And it was like this story just sort of landed in my head, so I'm going to tell it to you. One day, Frey sat on his foster father's high seat, looking out across the world, and he saw a beautiful maiden. And Frey just found himself falling deeply and truly in love with this maiden whom he saw. He just absolutely had to marry her. So he went, well, first but he didn't know how he was going to find her. He didn't know what he was going to do. So he naturally moped about for the next 3 days until finally he made up his mind. I am going to go and convince this woman to marry me. And he took a chest of the finest gold and he carried it to the place where he had seen the maiden. And he laid the gold in front of her. And he said, I am Frey, god of Asgard, of the Vanir tribe, and I love you, and I wish for you to marry me. But the woman only looked at him and said, Gold? I seek no gold, except for the hair of my children. I will not marry you. And Frey turned around and left. And he moped about for the next 3 days until his friend said to him, Look, you got it. You can't take no for an answer. If someone you are in love with refuses to marry you, you just have to go out there and force them to marry you by a sword point if necessary. So then so Frey went to where he had seen the maiden before, and he pointed his sword at her, and he demanded that she marry him, or he would kill her. And yet the maiden only laughed at him and said, I do not fear your sword, and I will not marry you. But your sword, it shall cut the heads from my children, but it will never cut my head. And Frey didn't know what to make of this either, and he left her, and he went home, and he moped for another 3 days, until on the third day, his stepmother, Scotty, came up to him, and she said, Frey, I've noticed you've now been moping for 9 days. Tell me what is wrong and what is going on. So Frey told her about the beautiful maiden whom he had seen on the high seat, and he told her about how much he longed to have her for his bride, but that she had refused the gold he had offered, and she had only laughed at him when he threatened her with a sword. And she then told him that his sword would cut the heads of her children, but she was not afraid of it. And Frey said, I do not know how I can convince her to marry me. She does not accept gold, and she only laughs at my sword and claims it will cut the heads of her children. I do not understand. And Scotty looked at him, and she said to him, Frey, you do not understand. I know Gerd, for she is like me. She is a goddess of the changing seasons of the earth. She is the goddess of the spring, and she does not fear gold, for she needs no gold. The sword which cuts the heads of her children is the scythe in the fields, cutting down the full-grown grain. If you want to love her, the only thing she will accept as tokens of your love is your seed, so that those children may grow inside her, and inside the great and green growing earth. So Frey returned to the maiden on the 9th day, and he said to her, I will give you children with golden hair, who grow tall in the summer sun, and I will take my sword, and I will reshape it to the scythe which cuts the heads of your children, so the world may be fed with their bodies. I will do these things because to you I offer the seed of my body. And Gerd smiled at him, and she took him away to her secret cave, and there they became wedded in the deep spaces of the earth. And the children who were born from this union became the gently swaying grain which grows and ripens in the summer sun until its hair is gold and full of that sunlight. And when that time came, the sword, now a scythe, cuts down the grain, and the stalks are returned to the dying earth. But that is a song of the fall, not of the not of the spring. So I know that's not the version where Gerd is threatened with death and forced to marry Frey, more or less at sword point. But I always felt there was something mythologically wrong with that version because you cannot force the earth to grow things. Only the earth can decide that. All you can do is offer it your seeds. And when she is given your seeds, then she has your children. But you cannot force it. So, if there can be a version of the beginning of the Trojan War, where Iphigenia is turned into a deer and goes off to be one of Artemis's deer in the forest and lives happily ever after, I think there can be a version of this story where Gerd takes Frey willingly into the cave because he accepts the bargain of growing anything within the earth. That which lives must die, so that others may live, so that they may live again. Blessed be my rune weavers. And look, we're a little bit further along on Miss Ingrid's head, and I hope you all have a blessed and merry spring.